Hi, Lisbeth Leroy here with a whole new series on bass flutes. Don't we all love those bass flutes? They sound so mellow and you can feel the vibrations in your body. They're excellent for meditation and sound baths. But unfortunately, not all people have big hands and large arms, so bass flutes are very hard to play usually because they're very, very big. The problem is the distance between the mouthpiece and the finger holes is very, very large, so you have to play like this. The distance between the finger holes themselves are very large, can be very large in bass flutes, so you have a hand stretch like this. The flute can be very heavy, especially when it's a hardwood, so you have to need muscles and you need a lot of air. Luckily, some flute makers have found a solution, and that allows me to play a whole range of bass flutes, and I'm so happy with that. And in the next episodes I will show you several types of bass flutes and what the advantages are and the disadvantages. To understand the kinds of solutions that some flute makers have invented, I'll first have to explain something about the anatomy of the Native American style flute. So this is a typical Native American style flute. It has a body. The body consists of two parts. This part is called the slow air chamber, and then here you have the air chamber of the flute, which also is responsible for the key of the flute. The bigger it is, the lower the flute sounds. So here you have on the flute you have a block, and under the block, as some of you know, we have two holes. So when you blow the air through the mouthpiece, the air comes up through the first hole, travels under the block and splits here on the edge here of the sound hole. So a bass flute is difficult because it gets very big. Typical bass flute here. So one solution is to make the slow air chamber shorter, so that the distance between the mouthpiece and the holes is not that far apart. Another solution for the stretch you have is to make an offset for the fingering. So the last hole is a little bit offset to the right so that you can reach it more easily. This is typical, one type of bass flute. So the type where the slow air chamber is made shorter, the flute body is wider, and you have offset fingering. This is a typical flute by J.P. Gomez. Unfortunately, for this type of flute, the maximum you can go is low A, so A3, and 3 points to the octave on a keyboard. Usually our flutes are octave 4, and the bass flutes are octave 3. I'll let you hear the low A. As you can see with my small hands, fingers, my short arms, this flute is very easy to play for me. So another type of bass flute is this one. It is a side-blown bass flute, and again the fact that the mouthpiece is on the side of the flute is to make the distance between the mouthpiece and the finger holes shorter. This flute also has a large bore. It is quite heavy, but not that heavy because it's made in red aromatic cedar, which is not as heavy as hardwoods, for instance. It's in the key of G, so as I told you, in the key of A, that's the maximum you can get with a mouth hole here, and then you have to invent something else, and that's this. So this is the low G. It is made by Ed Doherty from Tree of Life Flutes. The lower it gets, the more mellow it gets. Oh, it's lovely to play these bass flutes. So that was the second type of bass flute. The third type is the Fipple type. Again, the distance between the mouthpiece and the sound hole is very short here. This is a low F, F3 by J.P. Gomez hard sound flutes. Very big bore, sounds lovely and very easy to play. You can play it straight like this, and the only difference is that it has a fipple instead of a block. Later on in the next episodes I'll explain what the advantages and disadvantages are. And then last but not least, the fourth type of a bass flute. It's also a Fipple type, again to make this distance short. But this one is a very, very low one. It's a sub-contrabass flute. And it's quite short, as you can see, but it sounds very, very deep, because it has closed end. So in fact it works a little bit like an ocarina. So this is a very low B/E Aeolian, and it is made by the late Stephen de Ruby. So here's a preview of the types of bass flutes. From each type I have several examples, and in the next episodes I will discuss all these flutes. I will play them for you, and I'll discuss the advantages and disadvantages. So I hope you enjoyed this. Stay tuned for the next episodes. Subscribe, let me know what you think. And if you haven't done so already, don't forget to have a look at my series on drone flutes. Okay, take care. Bye bye.